All right, here you go. No, it's a video.
It's a camera? Oh
Yeah,
my God.
so,
I'm not very photogenic. I already know
What
that.
brings you out here in solidarity with this march?
Today I'm here. I'm from Albany, New York, because, you know, I like Fidel Castro. I love him a lot. He's not around, and I know that he would want me to do something like this, you know, because he wrote a book saying that it's our duty to struggle, and Maduro represents the working class and the people who are struggling, and he represents anti-imperialism. So I'm here to support the people who struggle in the world against anti-imperialism, against imperialism and stuff like that.
Okay. How important do you think it is for people to get a different narrative than what they see on mainstream?
Yes, I don't even have TV. I haven't had TV since 2008. I never changed to digital to whatever it was in the past. And I didn't get no box, and I didn't get a new TV. So I don't really see the narrative on the TV. I see it from the posts that I get from Facebook and stuff like that. And so that, I guess if I was to buy a TV and I was to see it, because the way you're expressing it and the way other people, I may see a lot of that's going on, right? About Venezuela.
Okay, yeah.
They're always bombarded with this thing.
Yeah, it's more one-sided, I guess you could say.
Okay.
Now, I'm gonna ask you this. With Facebook, social media, and the likes of the new age and the internet and the way people inform themselves, how important do you think it is for the people to have an avenue and an organization to get a more or less truthful narrative?
It's very important because, you know, these people are vicious. They will put their fangs in you and stuff like that. And if you don't know what's going on and you know how they operate and their special treatment to the ordinary working class people, you know, they will try to do all sorts of things to you. So you need to have this social media very progressive, always, you know, enlightening us about the dangers of capitalism in the United States and, you know, what they're capable of doing to us, because they will try to disrupt our lives in every way they can.
So what message would you share with people out there that haven't yet got actively involved? What message would you share with them about the importance?
Well, I think I heard Brian Becker say something, and he said that, you know, we're not just going to be sitting around and let them do this. And, you know, for some reason that resonated really well with me. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of people do sit around, you know, and they don't know what that sitting around is going to do to them. You know, eventually it's going to, you know, get them too, you know, and they think, you know, it's very decadent, you know, the economy is going to fall and it's going to hurt them and their kids, and, you know, like, it's shown that, you know, they try to get everybody, everybody's their enemy.
Nobody's exempt. No one's exempt.
It seems that way, right?
Right.
Unless you're really docile and you don't really do anything, then, you know.
Oh, yeah. How you all doing? First, let me get your name and where you guys from.
I'm Hannah Dickinson. We're both from Geneva, New York.
Okay, Geneva, New York.
Yeah, I'm Rob McLean.
Are you here with a certain organization?
Yeah, we're part of the Party for Socialism and Liberation.
Okay. Me too. Nice, awesome.
Yeah, so we're the Geneva, New York branch.
Okay.
Part of that.
How important do you think it is for people to stand in solidarity with nations such as Venezuela?
It's of the utmost importance. We know, right, that sanctions are a form of warfare, and we know that the Venezuelan people have a project of building another kind of society that they're working really hard on, and might have a chance of succeeding if the U.S. and other imperialist nations could stay out of the way.
You take?
Yeah, I just think it's the most important thing right now. I think sometimes we try to when we think about like what the left has to do and we think about how to organize real progressive change, sometimes this tendency to put anti-imperialism on the back burner. But it is the most important struggle that we face right now. It's the most important sort of task that we have as people that can unite the working class, that can build power and change the course of this country, because we have to do that. You can't exaggerate it, right? It's an existential crisis that we face, and we face it very, very quickly. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. You can edit that part out.
It's all right. How important do you feel it is for people to have a proper information outlet to receive truthful news, I guess you could say?
Yeah, that's so important. I mean, I think you'll have shots of just all the people gathered here, and it's an angle that you'll never really see in the mainstream media. As we walked in, there's sort of like gang of about 20 anti-Maduro activists, sort of right-wing, people that shouted
Counter-protest.
A counter-protest at the edge of this one. Very, very small. But the media is taking pictures of them. They have their backs to everything that you can see here. And they're taking pictures of these people shouting and singing and holding up signs and saying, listen to Venezuela, because this is a human rights catastrophe. And that's the only narrative that most people are getting.
And most people in the mainstream America. And it's like, how do you feel, along with this movement right here, or this march right here, how do you feel that we gain more solidarity with average, everyday people?
One of the things I've been talking to people about are the remarkable gains for women that have been accomplished by the Bolivarian Project. The Venezuelan Constitution is the only constitution in the entire world that recognizes domestic work as work that should be compensated. They have a vision for an egalitarian future that I think should be inspiring for working class and oppressed people in the U.S. Those are our brothers and sisters.
Right. And your take?
I think part of what we have to, work to get across to people is, what kind of project is this coup attempt run by Elliot Abrams, a guy with a long history of war crimes, and it's going by the same playbook. And people have to realize that they're being lied to about what's happening in Venezuela. They're being lied to about the popularity of the government, the reality on the ground in terms of the material situation, the economic situation on the ground. They are being lied to. I don't think that's a tough sell, because anybody who is around for the Iraq War knows what it's like when the U.S. government lies to you.
Piles it on. They pile it on heavy.
Right? Yeah. The hard part is there's not as much out there of a different narrative that people can buy into. Say, actually, this is what's going on. People know they're being lied to, but they can't sort out, what's real from what's just another bot, another algorithm, another kind of operation by some intelligence agency or by some private corporation. And unfortunately, there's this idea on the left that in order to get into this political struggle, you have to first, voice your criticisms of the Maduro government or of the Bolivarian process or something like that. And that has it exactly backwards. Especially here in this country, especially here at the heart of the U.S. empire.
Right.
Number one priority that we all need to have is to be in solidarity with the Venezuelan people against any and all U.S. war crimes. Because, we have seen how they play out.
Yes.
And they are
we know the end results. I thank you all so much. I got it.
My name is Emily. I'm from Venezuela, Caracas,
Okay.
Venezuela.
And why are you here at the visit?
Right now, I came with my family. My sister, she's here with me in the U.S. We came to the protest for Venezuela to learn about what's happening and everything. Yeah.
Okay. With mainstream media in the United States the way it is, how important do you feel it is for people to get the right narrative about what's happening?
Right. I think it's very important. The most important source is the Venezuelans by itself. You have to talk with people because I have family there. They've been struggling lately. Usually last week we had a power shutdown for about 3 days. It's still like since last Thursday people haven't got electricity in their homes, like specific places around Venezuela. So I think the best way to get information is to talk with actual Venezuelans about what's happening back home.
Right. And for people that don't know, how important is it for Americans to understand the governmental processes of Venezuela?
Yeah, so it's a lot of reading and a lot of researching that you have to do to fully understand. Even us is very, for example, I haven't seen any government. I'm 20 years old and I haven't seen any other government in my country but the Socialist Party in my country. It has been kind of getting the country worse. So you actually have to read a lot to fully understand what's happening. It's not only a governmental issue, it's a social issue, most likely. Now that has become a humanitarian crisis, it has been getting worse. So you have to be really mindful of what you read, or the papers that you're reading. You have to be. It's hard to be unbiased these days, but still you have to do a lot of reading to fully understand. That's the only thing that you have to do. Yeah.
Now, being that she's from Venezuela, how important do you think it is for people outside of Venezuela to stand in solidarity?
Right. So lately we've been, like as I say, the humanitarian crisis has been affecting us a lot. My mom, for example, she's a cancer patient, so we can't find their medicines there. It's pretty expensive. The food is pretty scarce. My nephew, my sister, they're struggling. So every place I go, I always talk about my country and what's happening. So people might think that it's the media portraying that we're really struggling, but we actually are. So I think it's important to get in solidarity with us. Just ask how we're doing. There are a lot of links to support Venezuelan crisis. So I think it's important to just inform people so they can get with us in this path.
Okay.
Yeah.
One more. How do you feel about the American government's processes as far as, I don't want to say military intervention, but intervening in sovereign countries' activities?
Right. Personally, I'm not 100%. I mean, I'm not in agreement with the military intervention. I don't want that. Of course, it's my country, and I really like my country, and I don't want them to intervene. But I've seen lately, that all the information that's been going around is from either Trump's office, like Mike Pence or Marco Rubio, and I don't think it has to be only for for their part. It has to be also from Democrats, because they think that it's a lie and that maybe Americans are trying to portray where it's it's everything is contracted, but we're really having a hard time. So I think it's better if we stop the difference between this is a social party or this is Democrat party, just to come together and kind of see which way can we help instead of military intervention.
Yeah. Basically creating paths to unity as opposed to just force. You know what I mean? Right.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that was good. That was good, man. I think you're from
Chanel. I'm from New York.
Okay, thank you. What brings you out here?
Well, what brings me out here is just people are dying in Venezuela. People don't have food. People don't have water. They don't have proper, materials to survive the basic needs. So, we're here for fighting for human rights, but we're also fighting for American imperialism. U.S. has to get the fuck out of Venezuela. It has to get out of all these countries that that can support themselves, and we're just here thinking that we're the magic like won and we could do everything. And it's not. It's like, so we have to get the fuck out of Venezuela. So that's why we're here.
Right. Now, how important do you think it is for everyday people, maybe who watch mainstream media, to seek out the right narratives or right information about foreign events?
I think it's important because we can't be selling fake news all the time, right? We can't be always making a lie and no. Sorry, we can't. Sorry, can we? I start over.
Yeah,
What's your question again? Sorry, I get distracted.
It's all good. Rachel wasn't here though. Right. What is? Oh, how important do you think it is that people get the right information about the foreign events? Yeah.
It's important because we can't be one, and we have fake news as propaganda, right? So now we're selling fake stories about real people, about real humans, right? And the thing is that if we sell fake stories, then that allows also fake stories to be sold about us here, Americans, you know, the poor people that come from the hood, like, you know. So we always have to tell our true stories. So we always stand up for the other people who are so poor and people who are always left behind. It's always the colored body, right? It's always all the time. It's the people who are colored and the people who are poor. So we have to make sure that we always stand up for them, stand up and always spread that love and that story, that truth. And it's like, we need help. We're fucking dying, we're fucking struggling, we're fucking dying. So it's like, someone gotta come here and help us, right? Like, we can help ourselves, right? But we have to all stand together so we can fucking, like, fight this fucking system.
All right. Go ahead, you good. Thank you so much, Mama. Who? Where you from?
Jerry, and I'm from Alexandria, Virginia. Originally from New York.
Okay, what brings you out here?
I'm actually trying to make up my mind how I feel about this issue. Do I think? I mean, things are really bad in Venezuela. I think that's obvious. What's the best method to help the people there? Is it to either get involved or not get involved? I don't think we should get involved militarily, but should we do more to remove Maduro, or was he democratically elected and should we keep our hands out of the place?
Okay. How do you feel the mainstream media narratives hinder people from communicating about these topics?
That's a good question. To answer off the top of my head, I think the mainstream media probably isn't covering this event in detail enough so that people can formulate opinions about it. It seems to be a little bit off the radar in terms of an important issue for Americans.
So, being that it's off the radar, when military action is involved, what steps do you think Americans should take together in order to voice their concerns, I guess you could say?
I don't think military action is involved yet. I don't think it's happening yet. I think we're putting fairly severe sanctions on them. It appears to us, but if you talk to the other side, they're saying we're not really doing enough and not putting enough sanctions on the government to try and affect some change there. In fact, we're only putting sanctions on some individuals, and it's not really hurting them enough.
Okay. Now, as for the history of United States foreign policy, how do you think that plays into people's reluctance to believe the government?
I think our history, especially overthrowing various governments in Latin and Central America, is having a big influence on why we shouldn't get involved in Venezuela. We seem to have a terrible history in replacing governments and putting in worse governments and making things worse there, especially in Latin America. So I think our history in this issue is playing into what's going on now.
Right. All right, one last question. As far as Trump goes, and the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, if people seek peace as a solution, how do they work within the confines of a Democratic and Republican Party that always seeks to take military action?
I think that's a good point. I think in this country we tend to simplify things and resort to military action because our diplomacy is lacking in a lot of ways because we're sort of xenophobic. You know, it's like what's good for America is usually what's the best thing.
Yeah.
So I think our politicians tend to resort to military action over a lot of other options. And I think especially with Trump, he just doesn't seem to be sophisticated diplomatically. I mean, I think there probably are diplomatic solutions to this problem, but we just haven't really been exploring them yet.
Right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That was awesome. Get on the sidewalk, kids. Get on the sidewalk. Hey bro, you mind doing an interview with me real quick? I just wanted to get an idea of why you're here. And what you're doing, all right, what's your name? Where you from?
My name's Javier Zerpa. I'm from Maryland, but my family's all from Venezuela.
All right, awesome. So, what are you here for?
So we're here to protest the current corrupt government in Venezuela. It's practically a narco state. The military is corrupt. The president's corrupt. There's huge amounts of hunger, poverty all over the nation.
For people that are citizens of America, what channels or avenues do you think they can go to get the right information about what's going on?
So the funny thing is, it's kind of messed up, but ironically, Fox News has actually gotten most of the stuff right. You can trust Fox News on this because Fox News is a little iffy sometimes, but you can trust Fox News. You can trust, I want to say CNN, you can trust CNN. There's a few networks, but for the most part, if you see anybody saying that it's not that bad down in Venezuela, that the government isn't that bad, you already know you can't trust them because the government does have deep pockets and they do run around.
Now, how do you think, what steps can people take to build a path to, say, solidarity for the people?
So, personally, I think that coming out like this really does help because it does show that we do want democracy down there because it's really sad what's happening down there. And there's been groups like Code Pink who have gone in and they've protested the U.S. getting involved in Venezuela. To an extent, they have a point. The U.S. does have a bad history of getting involved, but there are certain things that you have to stand up for. In Venezuela, there is currently a real crisis happening, and we have to stand up for that.
Now, as far as youth involvement, how do people come together, not just in Venezuela, but internationally, to have a more of a powerful say against interventions and such? Or how do you believe people can get leverage at this bargaining table, I guess you must, when it comes to intervening in crises such as Venezuela?
Personally, I think it's just showing up, voicing your support. When you see an injustice, speak out against an injustice. It doesn't matter what's going on, you just have to speak out whenever you see it. That's what I think. We have to find a way to get the current government out, preferably peacefully. We don't want a war down there. We want a peaceful democracy to happen. So we have to stand up for when we see injustices.
Right. How old are you?
I'm 20 actually.
Okay,
now.
bro, you forgot your age on us, man.
I just turned.
Maduro presidente, Chávez presente, Maduro presidente. Chávez presente, Maduro presidente, Chávez presente, Maduro presidente, Chávez presente, Maduro presidente.
¿Está ahí? ¿Está ahí? What's your name and where you're from?
My name's Lizzie, and I'm from the area. I'm from the DC Cities.
Okay, so what made you come out here for this rally?
Well, I just think there's a lot of misinformation right now that's being spread about this coup that's going on right now in Venezuela, and I think it's just really important to show our government that there is a significant and really energetic and passionate portion of its population that doesn't support this, that doesn't want our money going towards this, and I'm against this. So I wanted to show up to support that.
Do you feel it's important for the international community to see Americans standing in solidarity with sovereign nations such as Venezuela and the likes of others?
Absolutely. I think ultimately, what we need is a revolution, and I think that's only going to happen if we have international solidarity between workers, between queer people, between people of color, all around the world. I don't think that's just going to happen with only the Venezuelan people working themselves, or only, us in the U.S. just working without consideration of how our country is this imperialist power. And I think, so I think it's really important to show that solidarity and to unite on common ground.
How critical is it that people have the right information avenues, as opposed to settling for mainstream media in the United States of America? How crucial is it for people to get access to the right information about foreign events as well as events here in America as well?
Yeah, I think it's super critical. I think, as an American, I have to say personally, I am also guilty of kind of just being extremely uninformed about international affairs. I think that's a stereotype about Americans. I think that's true about Americans, and I don't think it's a coincidence. I think, our government wants us to be uninformed. Our government doesn't want us to understand how the world views us and what we are in the grand scheme of things. And even I was reading Vox the other day, which I think most people would consider to be a either centrist or liberal source, not outwardly gung-ho imperialist. And they were just, the headline that they had for this issue was "Democracy Wins in Venezuela." And I just think that really shows that even, the centrist, leftist or left sources that you're getting, they're really not telling the story correctly and the way that it's supposed to be told. So I think spreading that information is really crucial.
Oh, thank you so much. That was awesome. Here.
My name is Leslie Fay, and I'm here because I don't want the U.S. messing around in Venezuela, because it just turned out bad like it did in Iraq and Syria and Lebanon. And what's the point? It's just going to turn Venezuela into a junk heap. And despite all the lies that people are saying, it isn't now. It's a working country now. It won't be when we get finished with it.
Right. How important is it that people get the right avenues of information pertaining to Venezuela?
It's very important, but it's very difficult because the press just doesn't want to see it. They don't have any foreign correspondents anymore. They don't send people down there to find out for themselves what's going on. They just listen to the Pentagon and the White House, and that's bullshit.
True indeed.
Yeah.
Now, with the political system the way it is, what do you think people need to do to build unity around events like this?
I don't know. Just things like this, I guess. It's really hard.
It's hard. It's not. I got you though. Where are you from?
My name is Justin Gay, was born in Haiti, living in New York.
Okay. What brings you out here today?
Solidarity with Venezuela, because the predator